Today's daf is daf Pei Beis, and we got up to Egla Rufa. And if you recall, with regard to Oso Ves Beno, the Mishnah had a list on daf Pei Aleph Amid Beis of cases of Shchita She'ena Re'uya, where the Shchita is not matir the basar, and on that, whether or not there's Oso Ves Beno is a machlokas between Reb Shimon and the Chachamim. But on the list, we find Shochet Paras Chatos. And the Gemara says that this should be a Shchita Re'uya because in event that they find a better Paraduma, they could be poded this one and eat its basar based on the Shchita and then replace it with a different Egla Rufa. So the Gemara takes out Paraduma from the Mishnah. And then we have the case of Egla Rufa. So let's begin 4 lines down from the top. The Egla Rufa lav shchita re'uyahi. After all, the Egla Rufa at some point is not yet Osir Bana. It only becomes Osir Bana a little bit later on, which would make it into Shchita Shena Ruya, but initially, it's a Shchita Re'uya. Why? Under what circumstances can you find that the Egla Rufa is Mutter Bana? And for that, we have a Mishnah, which is in Maseches Sota, that Nimtza HaHoreg, right? The whole issue of Egla Rufa is where you find a slain body between two cities. You don't know who the Rotzeach was. And therefore, the Torah requires that we go through this whole procedure of Egla Rufa. But if we find and locate the Rotzeach before they actually did the Arifas HaEgla, then Teitzei V'Tira Ba'eder. Then the Egla, the calf, could go out and graze in the flock, and it's permissible. So we see that the Isar Hano of Egla Rufa is suspended until after the Arifas HaEgel, until they break off its head. And therefore, if he would go ahead and shecht it, and they found and located the Rotzeach, then you would be allowed to eat the basar based on the shchita. So you see the shchita is a shchita re'uya. Omar, Reb Shimon Lokshun Rav Yanai, Egla Rufa in a Mishnah. Just like we took out Paras Chatos from the Mishnah, and we're going to erase it and say that there was a mistake here, so too we'll do the same thing, says Rav Yanai, in the case of Egla Rufa. So again, the principle here is if there is a scenario in which the shchita would be mat to the basar, that makes it into shchita re'uya, and then it's included in the iser of oso vespino. So the Gemara now has a stira. Umi Omer Rav Yanai Hachi, is it true that Rav Yanai holds that as soon as they find and locate the murderer, then it's roa ba'eder, meaning you can be matir through shchita. V'omer Rav Yanai gvul shamati bo v'shachati. There's a limit. There's a final time where after which you could no longer remove the status of Egla Rufa. I don't remember, says Rav Yanai, exactly what they taught me. What is that final red line? But Nasiv Chavraya Lomar, they got together the students in the study hall, and they revealed to Rav Yanai that which he had forgotten. Yiridasol Nachal Lachalesan Osarto, that the Torah says that after you designate the Eglah roof, you have to take it down to a valley, which is called the Nachal Eson. And the Chavraya told Rav Yanai that at that particular moment in time, when they already did the Yerida Nachal, at that point, and from that point on, it's irreversible. You can't change the status of the Eglah Rufa. Now, V'im Isa, if you can assume that Rav Yanai accepted this principle, that up until Yeridol Nachal, it's a reversible situation, then when Rav Yanai asked the Kasha, how is it that Eglah Rufa in our Mishnah is excluded from Oso V'Espino because the Shechita is not matir according to Reb Shimon, and you need a Shechita Ru'uya? And L'chora, Rav Yanai says that's not a valid logic, because if they do locate the murderer, then the shechita would be matir the bossa. So it is a shechita ru'uya. It should be included in also vespino. Leshne, why didn't Rav Yanai give us a very simple answer to explain our Mishnah? And that is kan kodem yerida, kan li'acher yerida. At what point in time did they locate and identify the murderer? Was it before they took the Eglah, the calf, down to the Nachal Eson, or was it before or after? And therefore, if Yanai could have a simple answer by saying that kan li'achar yerida, our Mishnah calls the shechita ein ru'ya because the shechita took place after that final time period in which you could reverse the status of the Eglah Rufa. Namely, it was already after Yerida v'Nachal. But in the Mishnah, which was cited here, we're dealing with a case where we found the murderer before the Yerida v'Nachal, and in that case, it's a Shechita Ru'uya. So why didn't Rav Yanai reconcile these contradictions by just simply saying kan kodem yerida, kan liacha yerida? So at this point in the Gemara has to say we got the names mixed up here. Omer of Pinchas bereder of Ami Anan Mishmei, de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Masnisin Law. My answer that I received was attributed to Rav Shimon ben Lakish. And what did he say? He said in the name of Yanai, Eglah Rufa in a Mishnah. That we have to take out Eglah Rufa from the Mishnah, just like we took out Paras Chatos, because up until the Yerida Lanachal, if they find the murderer, then the Shechita would be meaningful. So it's a Shechita Ru'uya. Omar Avashi ki avinin beirav papa kashalon. We had the problem of me, Omar, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Hachi. Did Rabbi Shimon Lakish actually say that the Eglah Rufa is mutter bahana until they actually do the Arifa? For Itmar, we have a different transmission of Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish that contradicts that one based on Gzeira Shava. And that is with regard to Tzipore Mitzora Me'emesai Nesorim. Right, the Mitzora, as part of his process of Tara, has to bring two birds. One is shechted, the other is kept alive and dipped into the blood of the shechted bird, and then the blood is sprinkled on the Mitzora. The bird is set free. You have to set the bird free. And the Gemara is going to tell us, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Mishas Shchita. At what point does that bird, meaning the second bird, become Aser Bano? And the answer is from the moment of Shchita. Rav Shimon Lakish Omar, Mishas Lekicha. Already when they designated the bird as part of the process of Taras HaMitzorah, at that point alone, the bird becomes Aser Bano. So just one second, which bird are we talking about? Right, there was one, the first bird we said was shechted, and the second bird would be set free, so there was no shchita. So once we slaughter the first bird, and now we set the second bird free, at that point, that bird is mutar b'ano. So what happens is, as soon as we take the two birds, they become aser b'ano, and when we set the second bird free, it becomes mutar b'ano. My time of the Reish Lakish. Why did Reish Lakish say that as soon as they took the birds and designated them for Taras HaMitzorah, they became Aser B'Noah? Gomar kicha kicha mi egla rufi, as a gzera shava, because the word kicha appears in both the parsha of Egla Rufa and in the parsha of the Tzipori Mitzorah. In the parsha of Egla Rufa, it says v'lokhu ziknei ha'ir hahi eglas bos bakar. So we have to emphasize the word v'lokhu. And in the parsha of the Tzipori Mitzorah, it says v'lokach, again the word v'lokach, ha'mitar shtei tzipor. So this Gzera Shava somehow connects the Egla Rufa and the Mitzorah and the Tzipore Mitzorah. And just like the Egla Rufa is Aser B'Ano while it's still alive after you do the Yerida Lanachal Eson. So the Mitzorah birds also become Asur B'Ano even though they're still alive. In any event, it's clear that according to Reish Lakish, the Egla Rufa becomes Asur only after the Shechita. Just one second. What did Reish Lakish say? Lekicha. So what's kicha kicha? That when it says in the parsha of Egla Rufa, it says v'lokhu shnei ziknei ha'ir hahi eglas bakar. At that point alone, it's Aser B'Ano, even though it's still alive, but it's Aser B'Ano because they took it down, and that's called V'lokach, to the Nachal Eson. So if that be the case, as soon as they took the Egla Rufa down to the Nachal Eson, it became Aser B'Ano, which means that the Shechita that follows could not be Matir the Achila. So again, the key point is that if the Egla Rufa became Asur B'Ano during its lifetime before the Shechita, then the Shechita automatically becomes a Shechita Sheina Ruya, which would mean that Reish Lakish could accept our Mishnah as is per se, that there's no Oso Vespino with regard to Egla Rufa, because already before the Shechita, the Egla Rufa became Asur B'Ano, that makes it into Shechita Sheina Ruya. So why do you say that it's Reish Lakish who's the one who says ain't a Mishnah that we take Egla Rufa and we erase it from the Mishnah? Ella Omar Rav Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan. It's not Reish Lakish as we misquoted him, who actually said that we have to take Egla Rufa out of the Mishnah. No, it's Rabbi Yochanan who holds Egla Rufa ain't a Mishnah. He's the one who wants to take it out of the Mishnah. Why? Because he holds Rabbi Yochanan that L'Kuli Alma, everybody agrees that the Isser Hana is only after it's dead, meaning after the Shechita. I'm sorry, after the Arifa, after they decapitated it. But before that, when he did the Shechita, it's not Asur Ba'Noah, so therefore the Shechita is a Shechita Re'uya, and therefore we cannot tolerate Egla Rufa in our Mishnah. Take it out. Okay, Rabbi, so that leads us to the Mishnah here in the middle of Daf Pei Beis. Shnayim shalokhu para ubina. So there's a seller, and he owns a cow and its offspring. And he sells it. He sells to one person the mother cow, and to the other person he sells its offspring. So the Mishnah says, "Eiz shalokach rishon yishchot rishon," that the first person who bought, whether he bought the mother or the child, it doesn't matter, he can go ahead and shecht it. And by doing so, he's going to force the second buyer to wait until tomorrow to do the shechita. But if on the other hand, the second buyer jumped the gun and he went ahead and slaughtered his animal on that day, then, as we'll soon see, he's niskar, meaning he profits from this, because now he could eat the basar immediately on this day that he bought it, which he wants to do. And his friend who bought the other animal, he'll have to wait till tomorrow. Omer of Yosef, le'inyan dina tnan. Our Mishnah has nothing to do with the laws of Oso Vespino, but the real thrust of our Mishnah is dine momenos, so to speak. That's called dina. Dina means, monetary law. In other words, since the second buyer jumped the gun, you might think that he did something immoral, but the answer is no. He's allowed to go ahead. Nobody stipulated otherwise, and shecht his animal immediately, even though he bought it secondly. Now here there's a long discussion. Let's call the first buyer Reuven, the second buyer Shimon. Let's say that Reuven, when he bought the first animal, he made a deal with the seller that he's going to go ahead and slaughter the animal. Now, if Shimon goes ahead and slaughters the animal, he's basically undermining the deal that Reuven struck up with the mocher. According to that contract, Reuven is allowed to shecht his animal immediately. Now that Shimon went ahead and shechted his animal first, now Reuven has to wait another day to shecht his animal. When the seller sold Reuven the first animal, let's call it the mother, okay, fine, there was an understanding that he would have the right to slaughter that animal on that day. Reuven would have actually gone ahead and slaughtered the animal if not for the fact that the seller went ahead and sold the offspring to another buyer. And Shimon now has to recognize Reuven's rights to go ahead and slaughter the mother. That's why Reuven said to the buyer, to the seller, I'm buying this mother animal because I want to shecht it today. So why does Rav Yosef say or for that matter, leave out Rav Yosef. Let's talk about the Bryce. The Bryce says in Kodam Hasheni Harezes Zoriz V'Niskar, like we're praising him that he did the right thing by jumping the gun. After all, he's undermining the right of Reuven, who agreed to buy it and in order to shecht it on that day. So here in the footnote, he quotes the Tvua Shar and the Pri Megadim. They say that the Brisa is talking about a case where Reuven just bought an animal. He didn't indicate in any shape or form that he intends to slaughter it on that day. And therefore, Shimon is not obligated to refrain from slaughtering it and to postpone it to another day. He's not required to make the assumption that Reuven needs to slaughter it on the day that he bought it. Zori is the law avad isura, v'niskar dika achil bisra. He doesn't violate any isur because even though Shimon was the second one to buy, and now he's forcing Reuven to wait another day for his shechita. But nevertheless, since Reuven never explicitly indicated his desire to slaughter it, therefore Shimon has every right to go ahead and shecht his animal, and that's why he's a niskar, because now he can eat the meat today. He doesn't have to wait till tomorrow. We'll soon see later on, not on Daf Pei Beis, but on Daf Pei Gimel, that there are certain days of the year when they used to have seudos, like on Shmini Atzeres and so forth, and therefore they used to buy a lot of meat in order to eat it on that day. But during the course of the year, we have no reason or rhyme or reason to assume that the buyer wanted to shecht it on that day. All right, this leads us to the next Mishnah. Shachat para v'achar kach shnei boneo. Now, what happens is that when he shechts the two offspring of the mother, after he had already shechted the mother, then with each offspring, he violates a separate lav of osov espino. And therefore, the Mishnah says, Sofek Shmonet, he'll get twice the amount of malchus for two averos. So far, so good. Shachat shnei bonel, but what if he did in the reverse order? First, he shechts the two offspring. Then he shechts the mother. This is a very complicated case because on the one hand, he violates the lav of Osov Espino twice. But on the other hand, he only did one Maisa Avera, one Maisa Shechita. He shechted the mother. And therefore, the Mishnah says, Sofeg es harboen. You cannot define the Shechita of the mother as a double whammy, as if with that one Shechita, you violate two different lavim. No. You only violated one Avera. Okay, now we get to an interesting case. So there are three generations, right? Sof shachta es bita ves bas bita. So shachto with a mapik hey means he shechted the mother, then he shechted the first generation offspring, and then he shechted the second generation offspring, the child and the grandchild. So let's just figure out what goes on over here. The moment he shechts the child, he violates oso vespino. When he shechts the grandchild, although it's not oso espino vis-a-vis the grandmother, but it's oso vespino vis-a-vis the mother. So by shechting both the daughter and the granddaughter, you violate two distinct Maisa Avera of Oso Vespino, and therefore the Mishnah says Sofek Shmon. Shchotav es bas bita v'akach shochat bita. What if he shechts the mother and then the grandmother, and so far he hasn't violated the Isur of Oso Vespino because he didn't shecht the beno, he shechted the grandchild, which is not included in the Isur, but then afterwards he shechted the middle generation, bita. So watch what happens. Without one shchita, he violates two different Maisa Avera of Osav Espino, because he had already shechted the mother, and he had already shechted the child, meaning the grandchild. Says the Mishnah, on that we have a machlokus between the Rabbanan and Sumchus. The Rabbanan say Sofek es harboim. With one Maisa Shchita, you can only be chayev one set of Malchus. And Sumchus Homishum Rabbi Meir, Sofek Shmonim. So what if you violated two Averos with one action? Sumchus holds that you'll get chayev Malchus for both violations, even though you collapse both violations into one Maisa. See, I understand that if a person eats a kizayis chelev, and then he eats another kizayis chelev, he'll get malchus for every single achila. But if he eats two kizasim of chelev in one achila, he only gets one set of malchus. So how do we view this case when he slaughters the middle generation and now violates two violations of Osav Espino? Should we say, since it's two violations, therefore it's like two kizesim of Chelev, and therefore he gets two sets of Malchus, that's the Shita of Sumchus? Or should we say no? If he ate two kizesim of Chelev, there were two Maisa Avera. But if with one Shchita he violates the Isser of Osav Espino vis-a-vis the mother, the grandmother, and vis-a-vis the granddaughter, his daughter, then in that case comes along the Chachamim and they disagree, and Sofek es harboim. He only gets one set of Malchus for one violation.